Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, and welcome back to the Unhinged, the Undefeated, and the Unbreakable TCP Live, coming at you live at 7:30 p.m. every Thursday evening on YouTube and available ad-free on YouTube memberships and Patreon.
Disgracia.
I'm sorry I'm late. There is a reason. There is a reason. We spent all day, Rohan, George and I recorded an Ollie Watkins Scouted episode, which is now out. For those of you, I scrambled to get it out before it loses all interest and so on and so forth. So that is now out for patrons and YouTube members. If you want to go check that out, you can do so. And that'll be out for the rest of the plebs tomorrow on YouTube. And then we had some big breaking news. Fabrizio thought, I know what time it is. It's TCP Live time on a Thursday evening.
Synergizing. He's synergizing.
Yeah, Fabrizio thought, maybe we'll give him something. And he did. Fabrizio has spoken. And the news is, understand Arsenal have started moving initial concrete talks for Benjamin Šeško deal. He has always been high on the recruitment team. Management, Mikel Arteta list with good attempts to get the deal done, rejected by Leipzig in May 2024 and January. Now Šeško will leave. Arsenal are on it. And we even had a little cosign from Florian Plettenberg with a little tick and the little...
Oh, he's a bit hit and miss, though, isn't he? Goodness me.
He gets one thing wrong. He's a 1 in 10 merchant, that guy. He's a 1 in 10. We will, of course, have a Šeško scouted out for everyone. We were going to do this evening ranking every Arsenal transfer link, but that's just not going to happen, is it? Because we all want to talk about Šeško. So let's start. Let's do it. How is everyone? Before we get into it, how are you, Rohan?
Very good, apart from hay fever. My eyes are like so red. Are they red?
They look fine to me.
Yeah, I've been rubbing them incessantly.
Yeah. Incessantly. Oh, speaking of maybe Sesko could be his name. No. What is your absolutely not? What is your initial response to that news? We are literally. I mean, it happened. It dropped about 20 minutes ago. Or I saw it about 20 minutes ago. So this is all fairly fresh.
Very happy, and I think we've spoken a lot about Sesko over the years. Actually, I know me and George, we've actually been talking about him since his Red Bull Salzburg days back in 2022. I remember watching a game against Chelsea, and that was the first time I came across Sesko. And I can actually offer some input on a player because I've watched him very
don't watch players. Don't do that.
Go on, Alex, do it.
Elite ball strike. Actually, to be fair, elite ball striking.
Yep.
Not an elite turning radius. Not between the lines.
I disagree.
Just in terms of as in in the Phil Foden sense.
Oh yeah.
Half spaces, they exist. He stands in them sometimes. Carry on.
No, but I've so with me. Let's bring it a little bit back, right? And we look into the options that we have. Isak's out the window. Forget about it.
We did actually, while we're on that, apologies, I should have brought this up. We did have a bet about Isak, and it was on the 13th of February for £20 if Newcastle don't get the Champions League.
Are you sure it was if? Are you sure?
No, it was if Newcastle don't get the Champions League. I said Isak would sign, and you said they wouldn't.
Okay, fair enough. Chat, make sure we actually watch back that video because I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was just
£20. I think I'm owed £20. I think somehow I'm owed £20 though. I'm not.
You're
owed
£20.
Yeah,
I think sure I'm owed £20. But no, I think so. You forget about Isak, right? And then you look at the market, and I'm looking at the links going from January all the way now, and I'm thinking to myself, who are the best available options out there? And there were two options for me in terms of players that I've watched. Ollie Watkins, which I get absolutely killed on the timeline for. Go and look at my Ollie Watkins tweets. There's like hundreds of replies. I don't even bother looking at them. And Benjamin Sesko, for me, he is the perfect type of striker in my eyes. Like when you look at him on paper, although we'll get into certain things I don't believe he's very good at right now, but on paper, you look at Benjamin Sesko and you think, right, this guy, tailor-made striker, centre forward, and he's a certified bang for me. unless injuries prevail and dictate proceedings. That's something that you can never really control as a someone watching football and analysing a player. But I just look at the raw attributes and what he is right now as well, in which I think there are raw aspects, and like we said, we'll get into them. But I think he's a lot more ready than what people give him credit for as well. And like, if you are someone who loves a player, a centre forward who is an absolute pace demon, Sesko is that. He's rapid, like ridiculous pace, ferocious in the channels, repeated sprints, constantly challenging the last line. Movement in the box, very, very intelligent. I really want to stress that. You're going to love Benjamin Sesko. Like, you absolutely love him. And when you look at what Arsenal need across the front line in terms of speed and the ability to be a lot more potent in transition, Sesko is certainly going to help us massively there. Those are the positives. We'll probably get into the other things, but yeah, I'm really happy.
Will.
I think
we certainly will.
As an overall package, just to quickly end on, when I look at this, the prices that are quoted for strikers in the market, I think if we're looking at 60 million, 65 million for Benjamin Sesko, I think that's good value, very good value for the player that he is, and the player that he can become as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and I would say I'm overall in favour, but it would depend on a lot of things. Because Šeško, in conjunction with other things, was part of my ideal summer. So I want to say that. So I'm really, really happy in terms of the as you say, all the positives that come out of him. I was trying to find, where was it in the thing? Let me see if I can find it. I made a list yesterday for a video of all the things I think we're missing from our forward line. Like, I just wrote it out.
Yeah.
But let's make it now because I can't find it.
Yeah.
I think we're missing channel running.
Yep.
He brings that. We're missing pace.
Yep.
He brings that. We're missing height. He brings that. We're missing athleticism. He brings that. We're missing ability to quickly break and then decision making and how he deals with that and stuff we can come to. But in terms of the capacity to do so, we're missing that. I think we're missing ball striking. I know we joke about it, but genuinely off both feet, we're missing that.
I'd say we're missing in terms of like quick snapshots, ability to create separation from the get-go, from a standstart, and
absolutely. And by the way, maybe Saka has some of this, maybe Martin list on this, but I'm saying as a group, just to build the list of things that Arsenal are missing from the forward group, this is one of those things. I'm missing other things. Poaching sort of instinct, I would say. I think we're missing, and maybe there's some quibble on there for Šeško. I would say we're missing the sort of grandma, I would do anything, I would kill my own grandma for a goal type gene, which I think I do believe Šeško maybe doesn't show in the same way as others, but I think he has from what I've seen. So if you're breaking down a list of, if you're creating the why for why this has happened, Šeško makes a lot of sense, because he feels you have a puzzle piece that Arsenal are lacking, and in terms of the shape, that's right.
Yeah.
The color of the puzzle piece, the development of the puzzle piece, the immediate impact of the puzzle piece is a different conversation. But for example, if someone's like Gyökeres ticks all these boxes as well, mate, he doesn't. He doesn't, in terms of height, in terms of the pace, in terms of the athleticism. There's a lot of things that, and Gyökeres, I would say, maybe has more of a poacher's instinct than Šeško. He doesn't. I'm sorry. So in terms of the puzzle piece that Šeško is for Arsenal, great. But would I be lying to say I don't like it? It all depends. Basically, how this plays out. If we go and sign Rodrigo and Watkins as a dream alongside Šeško, I am over the moon. But if he is the only centre forward signing, he's the only forward signing.
Yeah, I think but a lot of this window depends on how we kind of complement the centre forward and the left wing signing in general, isn't it? And I think with Sesko, it's kind of like the biggest reason as to why I'm really, really keen on the deal is because his weaknesses right now are some of the biggest strengths Mikel is able to implement in the players and how he coaches them. Yep. That is, for me, the biggest thing. So when we look at Sesko's weaknesses, I'll go through them right now. Now, George mentions it a lot, and he's absolutely bang on about it in terms of, he's 6'5", but he doesn't realise it. Genuinely, it is so spot on. Now, I've recently watched games against Borussia Dortmund, and he's up against Emre Can. Emre Can is physically bullying him in aerial duels in terms of these balls going over the top, and Sesko's not able to pin him. And you're thinking to yourself, how is that even like that? That's crazy when you consider the mismatch there. But it's down on his the way that he uses his body and the way he pins centre backs in those scenarios. Now, what is Mikel Arteta really good at with forward players? It is the back to goal play. It is their ability to resist contact. Regardless of what anyone says about Kai Havertz, from the player that Kai Havertz was to when he came to Arsenal, there were massive worries about his physical capacity to pin centre backs and to roll contact in those scenarios. He's improved significantly in that regard. Martinelli, he's improved significantly in that regard. Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah. These are players that we have a track record there of the manager being able to extract more out of players who are not the most physically imposing, but they hold their own in these battles. Now, you've got someone like Benjamin Sesko, who is 6'5", and all the tools there. That is someone Mikel Arteta. That is why I think Mikel Arteta is so keen on this, because he can work with him and he can mold him into a player that becomes so complete. And I think the way we use Sesko right now, and again, we'll probably get into more of it, but it's Sesko in terms of when you're going long and it's looking to compete for aerial duels. Sesko right now, the best way to use him is not to lump it long directly to him. It is to lump it long in space.
Get him to run.
That is a massive difference in terms of the way that we use Kai Havertz, for example. Kai Havertz, we look at David Raya. It's the transferable quality from Brentford to Arsenal. Brentford, David Raya to Ivan Toney, flick-ons. And again here, David Raya to Kai Havertz. Yep. If we're using Benjamin Sesko in that way right now, it doesn't make sense because he's not able to resist contact in that way with the balls going over the top when talking aerially. But if you hit balls into the channels, Benjamin Sesko is a nightmare for defenders because of that ferocity and the repeated sprints. Statistically in the Bundesliga, Alex, I think he's made the 7th most sprints out of anyone. That tells you the
I was looking at those numbers yesterday. I knew you were looking after it. Yeah, the stamina is crazy. And again, we should do a hot. You've mentioned the weakness there, so yeah, in terms of the dealing with contact from behind, that is a big weakness of his as well. And we should maybe talk more about the weaknesses as well. But you keep sort of coming to it, for example, with the use of his body. But look at Havertz. That this is kind of the point: is that we have players who can do a lot of the things that he's weak at, but we don't have players who do a lot of things that he's good at. The puzzle piece thing, the argument is there. Also, just separately, I'm going to try and find some data to bring in and to contextualize this conversation. But this is from Data MB. This is one of the things, something that we looked at him last year, and then I've looked at him again this year, and honestly, I do see an improvement, and I want to try and put that out in the numbers. This is from Data MB. You can see the XG and the non-penalty goals have gone down, but I think Leipzig have had a worse season this season. But in terms of the other stuff, is in terms of attacking actions, his expected assists and pass into the box, in terms of his aerial, he's either stayed the same or he's got a touch better. So yeah, the XG and the non-penalty goal stuff is a concern, and we'll come to that as well. But I do think some of that comes down to Leipzig. And also, I think in the conversation with Gyökeres and Sesko, just in that, again, the puzzle piece thing fits for me in terms of what Gyökeres does and what Šeško does. But this is the data again from Data MB. Again, this is only certain things looking at centre forwards, so you can look at that. But Šeško is better in the air, better in terms of passes into the box. There's not much between them in terms of passes received. There's not much between them in terms of in the air. Not actually that far off in terms of non-penalty goals. Gyökeres is much higher on the XG. And then consider the league difference. This got one's 21, one's 26, and for me, I think the idea that Gyökeres is miles past him in even in the things that he's strong at, I don't necessarily agree. So I think there are some numbers that are quite exciting, but then also I'm just going to bring up something else. There are some numbers that are a bit of a concern. So let's try and put some more context to that. This is Šeško when compared. Thank you for super chats as well. We'll come to them as well. This is Šeško when compared to Hugo Ekitike. So this is in the Bundesliga. So this is for Bundesliga. 90s played 18.1 for Hugo Ekitike and 90s played 17.3. Yeah, and I will say, you can go through and go, okay, well, in the more important stuff, like for example, Ekitike is miles ahead of him in terms of deep touches. Well, that's more about play style. Like you could go through and make a case for this and be like, it's actually not that bad. But ultimately, there are things where, you look at that radar and that doesn't tell a particularly pretty story. There is context. We should come to it in terms of the Leipzig season, Frankfurt season, the things like, for example, aerials, they're pretty close. Turnovers, they're pretty close. Dribbles completed is not that far. Deep touches is play style. But equally, Ekitike is ahead of him. If you were just looking at pure stats, you'd look at Ekitike.
Yeah.
Any more on sort of his issues? Maybe.
Yeah, in terms of his issues, and I want to expand a little bit more on this, and I really want to focus on the way that Leipzig have used him in a Pender this season from what I've watched. And it's kind of like what they've had is Benjamin Sesko, and it fluctuates a lot, but I've seen Benjamin Sesko receiving a lot in deeper areas, ball to feet, and then quick passes, then spinning in behind. And it's a Pender making a lot of these runs as well. And when you look at the density of the number of touches in box situations, I don't know what the heat maps are, but from what I've watched, I can guarantee, I believe I can guarantee that a Pender has had more involvement in the box, and that's the usage of the two players. And that's why I think it makes sense as well, the passes into the box as well, with Sesko ranking really high there and the volume of passes there. But I think with Sesko, the other issues in which it's actually one of his biggest strengths in terms of the ability to kind of receive the ball and then just smack it top bins. But I feel with Benjamin Sesko is like when he has a lot of time on the ball and there's open spaces, his decision-making can leave a lot to be desired, and it can be really frustrating when sometimes there is the pass to play as opposed to taking the shot off. Where I think Sesko's fantastic is when he's playing with instinct and when the spaces are a lot tighter and you don't have much time to think and you've got to release it quickly or take a shot quickly in a situation, as opposed to being someone who's carrying where he's so powerful in the carry. But I think sometimes the decision-making in the final third can really frustrate you. And that's where, we've been frustrated by that in transition this season, where the opportunity is to play the right pass, is to make the right decision in the final third. Sesko in those scenarios can also annoy you. Whereas I think Sesko is best when he's the one making the run and he's the one looking to finish the move. Now, again, even in that scenario, he misses opportunities and he misses gilt edge opportunities as well. But I think that's a better way to use him as opposed to being the person who's predominantly carrying and is forced to make the decision before the final pass. So, yeah, I think for me, though, it's kind of like when we look at the way that we've seen with Mikel Merino as number 9, and if we go really back and look at baseline analysis and the impact that he's had, there's no reason why Benjamin Sesko would not be able to have a profound impact either, with the upside that he brings as well and the guaranteed potential of being a certified bank. And I think that I believe the way that we should use Sesko is different to the way that Leipzig use him. And that, for me, is one of the big reasons as to why he has underachieved in terms of his output. Pure baseline output of 13 goals. Like, you see 13 goals, you compare it to Gyökeres. And that's where I think people are like, just look at the pure output that Gyökeres is getting. But that's where I think, okay, but let's have a look at the system and the environment that he is in. And it's not giving him the tools to also have that high volume output. Whereas I think at Arsenal, it would help him a lot more in terms of not being the person who is constantly deep and and making that first pass, that link. And he's really good at that. But I'd argue he's much better at being in box situations, making these smart runs on the back post or peeling on the front post and receiving cutbacks. That's a better way of using him. And I think he would churn out more output. And I think he'll give a bigger impact than what people say. But then it's kind of like that balance, isn't it? Of like, he'll do better than what a lot of people think. But at the same time, be wary of you have this idea of him on paper, an idealistic view of Benjamin Sesko, but it's also not the reality right now.
Yeah, and I think there's no guarantees in football, but from those you speak to who are within it are pretty guaranteed that this guy is going to get somewhere really, really special, and that's great. But yeah, there are some concerns. I think that you're talking about the usage, and it's really important as well to just say that as well. Just to give the context, so Leipzig finished 7th. They finished outside of Europe for the first time, which I think will help us in negotiations in a long time. They finished below Mainz and Freiburg and Dortmund. They also finished below Frankfurt, who Ekitike we were talking about earlier. I've watched less of them than you have, but I think I think they only scored 53 goals overall. So this idea that Sesko was going to go and score 20, 25 for them, and look, I hear the concerns about the goals. I want to be absolutely clear that this guy's not going to come in and score 30 goals for us. But actually, and I said this yesterday, so this isn't just copium based on the news. I said this in the TDK video that came out. My thing with the goal tally this season, so it went down for the first time in 3 years. So it went up for 2 years, got the record in 23, 24, and it went down this season. Okay. My response to that, some people, is go and get a 30-goal a season striker. That's not my personal response. My response is, how do you get more goals out of Saka? My response is, how do you get more goals out of Martinelli and Jesus and Trossard and Šeško and Havertz and whoever? Keep them on the pitch first and foremost is a big one. But you for me, my response is never, if you can go and do that, maybe great, but only the very, 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 very best strikers do that. And we would have probably moved for Isak if we could have done, and he maybe would have done that. But for me, a more sustainable solution and a pretty good solution is to look around your team. And as I say, I think your usage point is really, really good. I also think there's specific games, running games, where Šeško is going to thrive. Maybe low block games, we're still looking at Havertz next season for certain periods of games. Šeško can also come on and be an aerial threat. She can be a target to run into channels when games open up a little bit more. I think when I'm looking at games, maybe like Brentford, maybe like Newcastle, where I want more running, I think Šeško could be great for us. And maybe there's going to be games where Havertz plays as well, and that's fine because it gives him space to grow. But that's only a problem if Šeško is the only signing.
Yeah, exactly.
If Šeško is your only signing and that's all you can do, then yeah, you are concerned because he's not. I don't actually think he's going to play every minute, for example, and people won't want that.
Yeah.
Let's come on to more of the deal side of things. I do think it's really, really important because there was a part of me going, okay, is there a world where Arsenal don't sign a 9 this summer? And there was a world, because I was looking around going, okay, I'm looking at the 9 market and there isn't a perfect answer. There isn't, I don't go, I'm looking at Gyökeres and I say, there's qualities I like. I have some big concerns. Šeško, clearly that's going somewhere. Some concerns. Ekitike, it feels like a small sample. You're going through each one and there's no perfect answer other than Isak, and that's not happening. So there was a world that I was going, will Arsenal sign a 9? And frankly, even just optically for the fans, I'm really glad they have. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I'm really big on Sesko as well, because I'm looking at the 9 market and the options are quite scarce as well. When we're talking about, like, there's a lot of uncertainty with every single player that is presented in the market outside of like an Alexander Isak. But an Alexander Isak won the
even him injuries. You could say injuries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you've got injuries with him as well. It's kind of like Ollie Watkins. Okay, is he falling off a cliff, which is the big narrative now? Is it? Have we got past the stage of going for players who are has-beens, even though I don't agree to that? Gyökeres with the Portuguese league, not watched him, so I can't comment specifically. Benjamin Sesko, 13 goals last season. We need someone who's going to hit the ground running instantly. He's too young. Strikers peak later in their years, around 27, 28. So there's a lot of different caveats with these, and that's why I think for me, go with the option that you have absolute trust in, can give you an impact now, but also the upside is there. The upside is big. And Benjamin Sesko is that. And the thing with Benjamin Sesko as well is, like, as a profile, as a player, like we've mentioned, the attributes that he has, he helps Ødegaard, he helps Saka, he helps Martinelli, he helps all these players around him, because of the type of player he is. In terms of the channels, allowing Martinelli to come more central, making those out-to-in runs. In terms of Ødegaard needs a runner, someone who's going to make incessant runs across the last line. That is Benjamin Sesko. Yep. In terms of as a target for Saka, those half-space crosses when he comes inside, Benjamin Sesko. So there's a lot of qualities here, whereas as a player, that it makes a lot of sense, But as you mentioned... And
it's Šeško first season as well. Like, the impact he's going to have this season is going to be a lot of running.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is, like there's a level of homogeneity in the Premier League in terms of teams squeezing a lot higher, going all the way from the bottom of the table to the top. From the get-go. They don't want to sit in a low block immediately. They want to squeeze. And a lot of these teams that Arsenal struggled against, in terms of the physical mid-blocks, they're willing to go a lot higher because they don't believe Arsenal have the pace in behind to really threaten them. Someone like Benjamin Sesko, I'm pretty sure he is going to cause teams to drop their lines a little bit deeper because centre-backs don't want to keep running back to goal to face that threat and the spaces that you're leaving there behind. So he gives a lot into this team, but obviously there are the caveats and there are the things that will frustrate them. It's kind of like, I think it depends on what you as a fan are right now. If you are someone who is a little bit more patient and is willing to understand that this isn't the finished article, then I think you're going to really love Benjamin Sesko. But if you're expecting someone who's going to hit, like you say, 20 plus Premier League goals, I don't believe that is him right now.
No.
So it depends.
Yeah, and again, that's okay if we carry on. It's all people going, oh, the project's over. This is just potential again. Hang on.
Exactly.
Hang on. Wait. It's not even June yet. If this is the only signing we do, I will have massive concerns. You will see me on this podcast saying big concerns, guys, that we haven't done enough. But Šeško in combination it's potentially a really, really good signing. Big Cheese, what do you think the highest fee Arsenal should go to get this done?
I felt that 65 million should be the cap, personally. I think 90 million is just a classic example of looking to drive up the price. But I think 65 million, when I consider the market, and you consider some of the strikers that have been sold of these, like Rasmus Højlund, players like that. Look at the fees that they've acquired. And people say, okay, that's not a good way of looking at the market, but that is how other clubs view us. Yeah,
that's what the market is.
Yeah, exactly. It's supply and demand, and I think this is the problem. Like certain players, and when you look at from a club's perspective how they're looking at these other deals and some of the players that they are letting go and the fees that they're acquiring, they'll be looking at Benjamin Sesko and say, why can't we demand a fee of that level? So I think 65 million is solid value, personally.
Yeah, I think it's. I think I'm just trying to find the sort of the recent record for forwards, and you're looking at so yeah, you could take the Grealishes and the Felixes, but just more recently. So Harry Kane's gone to Bayern in 2023 for 95 million. Randall Kolo-Muani was 95 million to Paris Saint-Germain. More recently, Darwin Núñez was 85 million. These are the more expensive ones. Osimhen to Napoli in 2021 was 78 million. Kai Havertz to Chelsea actually was 80 million.
Gonçalo Ramos to PSG was like 70, 80 million. I think.
Julian Alvarez 24-25 was 75 million euros. So yeah, I think we're shopping in terms of the potential of the player. We're shopping in there. It's difficult because we're signing, and again, people will go, why are we signing potential? I'm not going to keep caveating. We're signing potential, and as long as we can do it in conjunction, that's fine. But we are signing a very, very high potential player, and the fee's going to reflect that. But equally, does it not even look bad, but is it a good use of funds this summer to spend 70, 80 million pounds on someone who probably is going to have a 60 or 50 million pound impact? Don't know, hard to say, but ultimately you're
depends
paying
on the other deals, Alex.
It depends on the other deals, and it depends on how he develops at the club. I think this is another thing as well, isn't it? It's like, like when we signed Ben White, 50 million, he was not worth 50 million pounds. That he wasn't worth that, but he has become worth that. So it's with these types of deals, it's hard to say.
And to be honest, you still have to look at the future.
This is another point I was going to. And sorry to cut you off, but this is another point I was going to make. We're so focused on next season, and that's fair enough. But Arsenal will continue beyond 25, 26. It will happen. So
yeah. Do you know what? Someone mentioned this to me like the other day, and I actually bang on with him. And he's kind of like, right, Arsenal need options, right? And Arsenal need players who are going to give different qualities to the current front line. That is what Arsenal need. And he's not in this idea of, and I don't agree with everything. He's not in this idea of, we need a world class level raiser across the front line. That's his perspective, which I don't agree with. But he goes along and says, like, we need variation in terms of the qualities that we have, because this team systematically, tactically is set up very well. It is set up very well. And we mentioned it many times. So now we just need variable quality across the front line that is going to allow us to combat different game states, combat different types of teams, like we said, the physical mid blocks, etc. Because the sample size is there of someone like Mikel Merino. I'll go back to it. Someone like Mikel Merino, who has never played as a number 9 before, has given us quality and has actually held his own. Even though you can see the glaring weaknesses of him in that role. So someone like Benjamin Sesko, where it's kind of like, for me, it's not like completely project type, because I believe he will give us significant output next season. It's not going to be the output that you would want in terms of killer number, but he's going to give significant output right now. But also the upside is there of him being a certified world beater. And it goes back to the Alexander Isak story of when Newcastle signed him back in 2022, which was still a decent fee, big fee for a player. And again, you're going back to the idea of the goals that he scored at that time, not big, a lot of areas to work on. And look at the player that he is right now. He was able to impact proceedings at Newcastle then, but the level in which he's raised over the years has gone up and up and up. And I think you can see a similar scenario with Benjamin Sesko. And that's why I'm very keen on it. And I do believe that you still do have to look at the future as well. You can't just sign players like, okay, they're going to... I think there's a balance, isn't there? Like, that's why I was very keen on Ollie Watkins, because Ollie Watkins, it's kind of like people will come back and say, he's got no resale value. But that's not the point of an Ollie Watkins signing. Ollie Watkins signing is how you are able to achieve significant financial perks by bringing the player who can win now, who is ready now to deliver a Premier League or a Champions League. And look at the financial incentives of that. Nobody cares about the nominal resale value if you sell him for 5p, whatever, if he delivers something big like that. So it's...
How much should we sell Henry for? No one cares. It's just not the point. And I think you're right about that. I think also another thing you said, which I think is a good thing to stress, is like, I'm expecting, as I said, maybe a 50, 60 million pound impact from the player. So I don't want to give numbers now because I need to think about it more. But from probably something like 70, 80 million pounds. That's because you're buying potential, right? So 50, 60 million pound in the first season. Hopefully that develops. But equally, we've spent all year crying out for someone who can run, someone who's tall, who wins half of their, like, I think he's like 97th percentile for aerials 1 or something. Someone who Odegaard can pick out, someone who Saka can pick out of the back post, someone like all those chances that we have, that we create and go, we need a striker. So he's coming into a system where he could bang. Who knows? We're playing it down because we don't want to go big and say this is the answer. And I don't think he is, in theory. But there is also a world where he completely flops. But there is a world where he bangs. And I think that shouldn't just be taken completely off the table to come into a team that is crying out for something. It's like water in the desert. If you have water at home, you've been drinking water all day, taste it when you're in the desert. Like, it's a completely different thing. We are in the desert with strikers.
Do you know the interesting thing is just quickly to jump in, right? Don't know if you felt this, but I've always felt this in a lot of games this season as well, outside of the fact that I believe Arsenal play the food so much in the final third. That is something that Benjamin Sesko is going to really help, in terms of he's just going to receive it and he's going to hit. He's going to have a shot. It'll annoy you, but it'll also be like, oh, glad someone's just having a shot. Let's just test the keeper. The amount of times we have not tested the goalkeeper is frustrating, right? Against Southampton, like, again, for me, we had a discussion about the usage of Declan Rice and other things, such as the usage of Ethan Wanieri at times under Mikel, and there's question marks there, in my opinion. But in terms of tactically, the ideas against Southampton, playing a back 5, we're then looking to overload with a front 6, and we've got really good set up tactically there in terms of finding solutions. And the idea was to put a lot of cutbacks, a lot of crosses into the box. And the amount of times players are just so static in the box and waiting for the ball to fall to them. It's so frustrating. Someone like Benjamin Sesko, one of the things he's really, really good at is his movement in box situations. He's incessantly looking to make some form of a run. And I don't see that with a lot of our players in box situations. So that's definitely going to help.
Bro, at the Newcastle game, do you know who the front 3 is? The goals front 3. They're content creators. They do like a lot of anyway, whatever, the front 3. Anyway, I was sat next to Juwan from the front 3. He will attest. Literally, I was just sat there going, "Where's the movement?" Like, when you're there, when you're it's in front of you, and you're not watching it on TV, especially from behind, like on the end, because I was in the clock end. It's so obvious how static we are, and it's such a big thing. Someone who's just going to make some run, especially when teams jump up, because our natural inclination at the minute is when a team jumps up, say we pass back to Partey or Rice, whoever it might be, and the other team's line jumps up. One of our big issues is we have no one who's willing to make that counter movement, that second run. Martinelli seems to, I don't want to say be coached out of him, because it never really was him. Saka wouldn't do that. He's much more ball to feet. Someone who's willing to do that, it's going to have such a big impact. So I think it's a really important point. Josh Miller, Team Edward or Team Jacob? I mean, Šeško or Gyökeres? Hopefully we've covered that. Look, I think with Gyökeres, like, George and I did a scout on him, and we don't think he's the right person for the club. But equally, in terms of here's where he would score goals. Certain transition moments, I think it does our high turnover moments. He would get some goals there. Here's where he would score goals. I think he'd score some goals, like sniffing chances out in the box. Those maybe like cutbacks and things like that. He'd be on the end of those. I think he'd probably score. Well, he'd score some penalties, and that shouldn't be sniffed out. But there's again, I go back to the same thing. The puzzle piece, the exact puzzle, the gap we have is Šeško shaped. So it's not Gyökeres shaped, and that's my point. Let's carry on with James Wright. Double RB Leipzig raid and bring Xavi as well. Much love. Yeah, just quick detour. How in on a creative midfielder are you? My position is this. To get the level of individual creative midfielder that I want at Arsenal, I'm looking at Wirtz and Musiala and those types of talents. That's the level that I would think we need to go to right now, in my mind, move on from Odegaard if you want to do that. Because I think Odegaard needs to show me he's going to go there, but to go above him, then that's the tier. He's not tier 5 or 6. He's right below them. So for me, that's what you do. And I look at, for example, someone like a Šeško coming in. What does the impact of Odegaard having runners do? What does the impact of playing with tempo with Zubamendi do? What does the impact of having players on the pitch do? I'm way more interested, from a creativity perspective, I'm way more interested in fixing those problems first before spending, in a summer that we clearly need forwards, £100 million and chasing Musiala, which is never going to happen all summer. Yeah. That's my position on creativity. I think people say, why don't we just go and get that guy? Are you sure that Morgan Gibbs-White would add more creativity to this team? For me, the creative issues are not necessarily individual; they feel much more systemic.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest positives, and we've said it many times in the pod, the injuries that we've endured, it has been positive externalities to players like Miles and Ethan. And someone like Max Dowman, I'm not really looking too much into that, although you can't ignore it. You can't ignore what he's doing. But I think strictly looking at Ethan, I believe Ethan has so much potential there, world-class potential. I'd go that far in terms of what he can offer inside. We saw it against Southampton. Southampton, he was the hands-down man of the match. Leslie Ugochukwu, which, we said had a very good game. But trust me, Ethan had him. Ethan had him so many times when he was receiving in those spaces between the lines and rolling contact against a physical midfielder. And someone like Martin Odegaard, my prediction is Martin Odegaard is going to have a very good season next year because of the types of players that we're linked with and the movement that's going to be around him. Martin Odegaard thrives with runs. That is why that pod of Saka, Ben White, and Odegaard thrived, and why it was looked upon by various coaches, and why teams have started to recognize that. We've been studied. Thomas Tuchel did it against for Bayern Munich last season to lock off that right-hand side, go really aggressive because of that movement and the constant fluctuations between Odegaard, Saka and White, where Odegaard would drop in, Saka would come in, and White's making these runs from deep and overlapping, and Odegaard's able to pick out them with really smart movements from those two. And then think of what someone like a Benjamin Sesko, someone who's got that ability to stretch incessant runs, constantly challenging the last line. I think that would really, really help him. So I'm very happy with what we have there personally right now. So
yeah, I think on the sort of the deep runs, I've talked about this before, but is it the Bournemouth game? There was a game early on in 22-23. Might have been the Spurs game, where we really lack that. We really, at the moment, really lack that deep run from Ben White, and that was what was creating so many problems for teams. Is he was running from deep, and the timing of that run was really, really hurting teams. And yeah, I think the word you use is static, and it's like that is it. We're too static, and we need more runnings, and it's a big thing. And Denny says, yeah, so Sesko won't start straight away, but I guarantee he wins us some big games next season. Look, again, I'm open to what does 6 months training with Gabriel and Saliba do to a striker? I think that's another aspect of this. In a better league and stuff, I think he'll improve quite quickly. So who knows? I agree. I'm not sure he'll start every game straight away, but what he says in terms of guaranteeing winners some big games, again, it's what was holding us back from winning certain games from and also specifically changing games. When games open up, we didn't have enough runners. We keep going back to the same point. And Šeško, if you start with a Kai Havertz and you expect more of a low block game, but it ends up being a Brentford where they're managing to get out, or Bournemouth or whatever, you stick Šeško on, boom, that line drops back. So yeah, I think he could change games as well.
Go and look at the best teams over the years in football history and look at their front lines. The best teams are pace, sheer pace. When you look at the Arsenal team, it doesn't have that. Arsenal's front line is not title worthy, in my opinion. It's not title worthy, and that shows from the lack of investment in the front line as well. So yeah, I also think with the Sesko point about the transition period of bedding in and how can we extract significant quality from the get-go is by getting him in early. If Sesko is your man, just go and get him. Just go and get him now, because pre-season is so vital for players to be able to bed in and to be able to then learn, understand the systematic requirements, because there is going to be a big change from Leipzig to Arsenal. Like, that is something a lot of players, from what I've read, their interviews, early days, in which, it takes them a bit of time to really bed in because of the significant demands that Mikel requires of players. Like, Mikel is someone who is so astute tactically. He can predict the movements of what the opposition is going to do. And the players aren't on that same wavelength from the moment they come in. So it takes time for you to understand that. And I think that's why it's so important to get this deal done if he's your guy. So
I think that's a really good point. Yeah. And from what we have, 3 months, basically, if we can get him in the next couple of weeks, we're almost 2.5, 2 months, 3 months or so, to give him some time and give him some instructions and some belief as well. I think also another point about the Leipzig thing, what is the whole Red Bull model famed for? Being great out of possession. I think this is another aspect to it. He's going to be fantastic out of possession and really help us. It might also help us transition out of Martin Odegaard being so much of a fulcrum in our press as well, not necessarily straight away, but more running, etc. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I think you're right about getting it done early.
The out of possession thing, just quickly, sorry. The out of possession thing, like, he won't need time to adapt there, because the role that he does there in terms of in the press, he'll be fine. He'll be completely fine.
Not in terms of the stamina and the repeated sprints and stuff, because that's all the stuff that they do.
All it is a case of, like, all right, what run do you need to make? How do you curve your run? Which way do we funnel play from the opposition's perspective in the press? Those are the things that he can pick up on quite quickly. But then it's the in possession things, I think, will take a little bit longer, and the back to goal play so.
Just two things as well. One, there was some numbers from the Athletic. This is a proper nerdy TCP live, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We normally have loads of stupid jokes. We were proper nerding out tonight. I'm just going to talk about the Athletic articles. 1,300 of you watching. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it, and appreciate your super chats as well. One thing, there was an Athletic article recently talking about the Premier League and how it's now become the most transitional league in the world. Which you think of the Bundesliga, or you maybe think of La Liga, or whatever it might be, but it's the most fast break goals in Europe. Again, Šeško's going to help us with that and dealing with that. I don't want to fill this whole team with a load of athletes and a load of big space guys, because that also creates you another problem. But we do need to compete, and Šeško helps us compete with that and play those games where we need to play those games. Because I think teams like Brentford and Bournemouth, the way Kluivert and so on ran through us, you're feeling, oh God, and I'd love to be able to do that to teams. I don't think we necessarily can. Mouse, the injuries from this season have really blinded us to actually how nearly close we are to a finished project. All these strikers actually improve us. Marino just standing in the box prove that. I agree with that as well. And I think this goes back to the point about the impact. Like, we're assuming, it's going to take some time, but we're in the desert needing some water. And I think this point about how close we are, that people can say, this is just excuses or whatever. The fact is, we were one Trossard kick from a title last season. That is a fact. That's it. That's how close the line was. So are we 3 new attackers and 5 new midfielders and a different coach and a different stadium, a different dog away from winning? No, we're very, very close. Yeah. And then for me, it's about isolating. It's always the why. What is the why here? What do Arsenal not just need a striker? What specifically? Because are you talking Luis Suarez? Are you talking Cavani? Are you talking an Henry? What do we need? And I think Šeško, again, it's this puzzle piece thing. I keep coming back to it. For me, it's the best way of describing it. That's the puzzle piece. And yeah, I think you're right, Mouse, in terms of how close we were.
Yeah, I mean, and when we look at this season, right, I think if anyone is being purely objective, and Thierry Henry's comments actually, I think, were very interesting. I don't understand the uproar on it personally, because I didn't think he said anything particularly wrong on it.
I was sorry to part that, but I want to come back to that later. I want to
I really want to talk about that, because, and I've not necessarily agreed with everything that Titi has said over the years, but I didn't see anything. Titi, yeah. But going back to this, these are the fine margins, right? How close we were to a league title, 2 seasons, in terms of certain things that have prevented us. This season, I think if everyone is being objective, in no circumstance, given the situation that we are in terms of the injuries and some of the refereeing decisions, that's not to say that we've not had our problems. I'm not saying that, but No team is winning a Premier League in that sort of environment. No team is. I refuse to be gaslit to say that Arsenal could have won the league in these circumstances, especially when you consider the fact that we were in January. And I actually don't call this season as a title challenging season from Arsenal, personally. I don't see it as. We've had 2 seasons of sustaining a title challenge. But then when you go to January, right, and we needed a little bit of help. We didn't get that from the board. And we played 9 games in which we then lost Kai Havertz. We then lost Gabriel Jesus. We then lost Martinelli for a significant amount of time as well. No team is able to win something in that sort of environment. So that's why I think I always go back to the previous season and what we learned from then. You know, I know it's a little bit weird. You're just skipping effectively a whole season, but that's the way I stand in terms of the league and looking at Arsenal from a title perspective, you know, and we're not that far away. For me, it's very simple. Good health, touch wood, good health to the team, to key pillars, and a few signings that improve our game model, that allow us to really challenge certain teams in terms of how we struggle against those physical mid blocks, how we struggle in adversity. Those are the things, how we prevent clusters. We'll be there. We will be there. We are very close, you know. I'll maintain that. So
we will be there. Sesko, let me just check something before I say something I don't mean. Yeah, I thought so. So this is a comment from Louis Gerard. Alex and Rohan, do you see Sesko deal a similar opportunity to the Isak deal we missed when he was at Sociedad? Do you guys think he's a similar level of talent? Yeah. I do. And I also think Šeško's body, not in a football sense, but just in a physical sense, is more developed than Isak ever was at his age. If you look at his injury record, I don't think he's been injured for like 3-4 seasons or something like that. I'd have to look that up. But it's really good. He doesn't miss games. Like, he's physically, if you just like, it's also, I think sometimes I was in I did the Live from M5 and I was in a room with De Juru and Gilberto Silva, neither of whom were ever renowned for being physically imposing, but these guys are just like, and there's some basketball players as well, they just look the part, man. Yeah. And, you know, even retired or whatever. And you look at Šeško, and if he walked in the room, you go, I trust you to run and run and run and run and run. Like, and that's, like, physically, I think he's really developed. If you go back and look at Isak at Dortmund, in his Dortmund days, he's still wiry. There's still the sort of the delicateness to his frame. Šeško's never had that, so I think he could integrate the lessons quicker. I think actually, honestly, for Šeško as well, a coach like Mikel, to kind of go, you've got all these traits, let me just give you this, let me help you with this, let me, when you're in this situation, when the keeper's got his arm down here, shoot up here, it's all those sorts of things. I think he'll be massively helped. The thing with Sesko, like I always say, is like the things that he needs to improve on can be coached. The things, like, there's certain plays in which you just don't have something, like, regardless of how much we coach you. Like, for example, the ability to strike a ball consistently, you know, striking for it with both feet. Sesko's got that. Yeah. Like, that can't necessarily be coached to the nth degree. Ball hard. He does that. That can't be coached to the nth degree. You know, there's always going to be cap there. Yeah. Everything else that Sesko struggles with can be improved on. And that's why I think, for me, the Isak comparison is a very, very good one, because I believe, like, the finances already are looking quite excessive, you know, if we're being completely honest. But they'll become even more excessive if you don't pounce and get these types of players in. I see it as a certified bang unless injuries dictate proceed. That is where I stand with Sesko. And up to now, he doesn't have the injury concerns that Isak has. Drushki, thoughts on Watkins and Leao and Isak next summer? You're playing Football Manager, mate. Imagine. There's no chance if we sign Šeško, we go get Isak. I think that this is basically the nail in the coffin of the Isak thing. He's never coming to Arsenal. It's quite interesting, though, isn't it? Like, how quickly, you know, it feels very much like, you know, all the reports of, like, okay, Arsenal are going to see what happens with Newcastle on the final day, and then we'll have a very crystal clear idea of what we need to do. Okay, Newcastle in the Champions League, let's just move on now. It feels like reports and things are starting to move a lot quicker now. I don't know. The moment Newcastle got UCL, I just tweeted #welcome Šeško. I knew this was coming, because I was just like, there's no chance. Like, they were just waiting for that to happen, because it's obviously everyone's first choice, and then they move on. And I'm not surprised that we've seen the Šeško links come so soon. I think did I not say to you guys on Sunday? I was like, we'll get some links next week. I didn't have any information. I think on the main pod. I had no information, but I was like, I know we're going to get something, because it just feels like a very Berta thing. Y'all are out of your depth and so blinded by your love for Arteta, you don't realise that this club hates pressure and always falls on B-class players in important moments, so excuses can be made. MK, cheer up, mate. Come on. The club hates pressure. Have you ever played a Champions League semi-final?
Yeah, I just don't agree.
Come on, mate. Come on. I do realize how excited I am for TCP when we're winning. Going to be the best feeling to celebrate. Hard to find that community in the US. Love you. Oh, thank you, Aditya. That's very, very kind of you. 1,400 of you watching live. Very, very kind of you here for the first time. Make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. We will have a Šeško scout out at some point. I'll text George to find out when he's free. He hasn't replied to me yet. But yeah, we really appreciate you. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking with us. Clivey Baby says Leo out and Buemo, Sesko, and Rodrigo in. Well, this is a question. So the current forward group: Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, Trossard, Jesus. Because I'm assuming Reece will go.
Yeah.
We don't have access to Jesus until January, I assume, at least.
Yeah, later this year, end of this year. Yeah.
And then we've got 4 players, unless we're reselling Raheem Sterling. We've got 4 players, and then that's. What are we? Yeah, so we're at.
I think you got to include Ranieri though, Alex, as well.
He's not a winger for me. I don't put him in the forward group.
But I think he'll be playing games though.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's probably at least some question marks over Martinelli and Trossard. Is there a world you think we get 3 forwards this summer? Because I can see it happening with a sale and two that we were already going to get and replacing one.
I'd be very shocked. I personally believe that the winger will depend on a sale of Martinelli or Trossard. That's the way I see it. And to be honest, I think Ranieri is going to play significant minutes as a Saka understudy on the right wing. But I mentioned it on the main pod where do not use Ranieri in the same way as you use Saka because they are stylistically different types of players. Ranieri can thrive right wing, and with his age and his development, I believe it's a very good position for him to play in certain games, but use him differently. And that's why I think you have to, but that's why I think you need to consider him in the front line. Then you look at options, and it starts to become a little bit more excessive. And I think you're struggling to manage that group of players, and that's why I think one of Martinelli or Trossard needs to go to supplement that extra winger. And I think that makes sense because you can't ignore Gabriel Jesus. Like regardless of your feelings on the player and what he is right now, he is gonna be back.
And he's like a 3-time Premier League winner. This isn't,
and he's on ridiculous wages.
He's on crazy wages. Yeah. Arteta wants to give a pay rise to Trossard. Like, okay, if you view it in isolation, but let me put this to you a different way. Okay, it's been my whole argument on Martinelli. Let's say your method of squad building is I have 6 slots for my forwards, and I have first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, sixth choice. So I have like my first 3. If I was building a sort of profile for what I want my 6th choice attacker to be, I'm sorry, it wouldn't look like Martinelli. It also wouldn't look like Saka because it's the wages are crazy. Like, why would you have a Saka level talent as your 6th choice? What you'd have is a versatile, low wage, experienced, consistent, reliable, available player. And that's why I look at Trossard and I say, I understand the contract talks because it depends what squad role you think he's going to play. Because he played 50-something games last season because we had no one, everyone thinks he's going to do that again. I don't believe that. I believe Trossard can jump up a little bit in wage and he can play all across the front 3 to a decent-ish level. He's always available. He's never injured. Really good professional. He also impacts games, which is another thing. If I was building a list of my 6th attacker, what would I want? I'd want someone to impact games. This is why I don't think a Martinelli is suited for a 6th attack. He's too good. He's too good for that. And so it's never about Trossard versus Martinelli. Martinelli wins every time. So obviously, who would argue that Trossard's the better player? He's not. It's about the role that they're going to have. And this is why I understand the Trossard thing. If we do sell him, I'm interested in who then that 6th attacker becomes. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah. For me, it all depends on the type of fee that a Martinelli would bring in. And that's where it boils down to. Because I've always maintained that I believe the best option right now is to let Trossard go. Personally, in terms of what I want across the front line, the qualities, in terms of, again, the pace that Martinelli possesses. And I also think the potential of Martinelli with the types of strikers that we're linked to. But at the same time, someone like Gabriel Martinelli, and you're looking like a 70+ million fee, you have to consider that. You absolutely have to consider that, and then it's a case of you keeping Trossard on a wage that is very respectable, because I think right now reportedly he's earning 90k a week. A boost is certainly warranted there, and I think that would be I think that would be valuable. It'll be a resourceful way of how you manage that situation, but it all depends on the type of fee that you get from Martinelli. So
basically, the Martinelli sale is so contingent on that. Reshi says we get Gittins as well, and I'd be happy. Not yet though. Personally, Reshi, I'm going to disagree. I think Gittins is a world-class dribbler. What we George and I just scouted on him, he's a world-class dribbler. The numbers are crazy, but he's similar to Sesko. Again, this is the contextual thing. If we get Šeško, Rodrigo, and Watkins, you will not get me on TCP live because I'll be at the pub celebrating. But if we do Gittins and Šeško, that's a concern for me, because they're not. Like, I don't think, for me, Gittins doesn't have the all-round credibility in terms of, I know you're going to be the best wing talent in the world. He might get there. I don't. For me, I currently don't know. I think he's very, very good at certain things, but I see more well-roundedness in the future with Šeško. But yeah, Gittins right now is not going to come in and have the impact that we want. If we believed in Gittins, we believed he was the next big wing target, and supplemented him with Gyökeres and Watkins, I might be okay with it. Does that make sense? Because they're more surefire things. But yeah, that's my position.
What about Williams and Sesko?
No, because again, I think you're doing too much. For me, the exciting part, and I said this in sorry to plug it, I said this in a TDK video yesterday. The reason I like the Šeško Rodrigo thing is Sesko eventually, I believe, will have everything you need from a centre forward. Rodrigo probably is a little bit light under contact, but and probably isn't going to be, in the same way that Šeško, I think, would be unbelievable under contact at some point, and have the output, and have the running, and have the link up, and have everything. I think Rodrigo won't ever get to the sort of output you want, but he comes in with immediate level raising skill today, and limitations, but level raising skill. Nico, and I think he has way more level raising skills right now than a Nico Williams. I think the only level raising skill right now is maybe stuff 1v1 with Nico Williams, but he doesn't come in with level raising output. He doesn't come in with level raising out possession work. For me, Rodrigo, and as a proven winner as well, like a talent that is going to win now, I think those are two projects, again, for me, that may get there. And I think are more certified with Sesko than Williams personally, that may get there. But that's why I like the pairing of Rodrigo and Šeško, because it's youth and experience. It's level raised now and level raised in the future. It's someone who comes in and is the superstar name from Real Madrid, who's going to come in and win us stuff, who gives Šeško, maybe takes the limelight off Šeško a little bit. That's why I like that sort of pairing. And
they would work in theory brilliantly
and
together.
And they'd work well together.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think it's as a complementary pair. And that's why I think we're going back to the Sesko. I think like a lot of the players that we have right now, I'm not worried about their usage and what their future lies with someone like a Sesko, because it's very complementary. Even like Kai Havertz, we not even spoke about Kai Havertz in terms of how he works as Sesko. That's a very balanced partnership.
Pairing,
yeah, that's a really balanced partnership. And I think actually, Alex, I mentioned this on Next today, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but you're going to see Kai Havertz in midfield in certain games this season. You're going to see it. The ideas were there last season. Go back to Palace away in the league. Who do we start in midfield? Kai Havertz with Gabriel Jesus, those two working off each other. You're going to see stuff like that next season as well against certain systems, particularly against back fives. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially with the way the league is trending as well. Some big breaking news we'll come to in just a second, but just wanted to show you this as well. Benjamin Sesko, running goals and expected goals. This is what I look for, someone who overperforms their XG. And we want to get that XG up. Let's be absolutely clear. That's not good enough in terms of his shots and so on, shots versus XG, but someone who overperforms, that tells you at 21 years old, he's a great finisher, and that's something that can only improve. Just quickly,
breaking news.
Some big breaking news.
What?
Do you know it?
1 second, I'm going to look.
Have a look on the screen, sir. Arsenal in advanced contract talks with Gabriel. Arsenal in advanced talks with defender Gabriel over a new contract. 27-year-old Brazil international's deal expires in 2027, but the Gunners have been in discussions over new terms. It is understood that negotiations have accelerated with an agreement now close. That is a major boost to the Gunners heading into a crucial close season where the club are expected to make a number of key signings. Gabriel has emerged as a key player. Under Mikel Arteta, this season was curtailed in April after suffering a hamstring injury that required surgery. Gabriel scored 5 goals for the Gunners in all competitions during the season just completed. That is absolutely excellent news. And another big part of the summer that we're not talking about today is the retention of Gabriel, Saliba, and Saka.
Yes.
Those 3 contracts, plus Miles and Nathan, you get them done. There is I don't buy this argument, but like I hear when people, not when people, but you could say, if Gabriel is the best player in his position, if I'm not saying he is, but if Gabriel is the best player in his position, if Saliba is the best player in his position, and if Saka is the best player in his position, there is not anything better you could do in a summer than get those guys tied down for a long term. That is a decent argument. I just got the best guy in his position in the world to sign a new contract. Yeah. Like, that's a pretty good argument.
So for me, like there's like such profound emphasis on incomings, and rightly so. That is the preeminent driver in terms of how Arsenal succeed. But losing certain key pillars within your squad takes us a significant step back. Losing a Gabriel Saliba takes us a really big. It really has a profound impact that is bigger than signing certain players as well. Yeah. And that's why I think it's like Andreas Berta can become like the fans can get really on board with him by getting some of these deals done in terms of contract extensions early, so that then the worries are not lingering in the back of our mind, constantly thinking, but if a Real Madrid come in, a bid here or a bid there, getting these players signed on, especially on the back of what has happened this season and the narrative. Back of it, especially on the narrative of this season in terms of are players going to start down toolsing, with the length of the project becoming nearly men? All these narratives that are coming through, it creates doubt in the minds of the fans. But then getting these deals done gives you more confidence that these players still believe in the project. I mean, we've said it, like these players are there. They're so with Mikel. I'll maintain that. They're so with them. And someone like Gabriel, like I said it on the main podcast, he is the best left-footed centre-back in the world. Do everything within your powers to keep him. The partnership that he has with William Saliba. We talk about units. We talk about Ben White, Ødegaard, Saka, the quality they gave in an attacking sense. There is no bigger impact to this team than Saliba and Gabriel. No bigger impact. Keep them, and that's you're going to reap the rewards from it. So
no, I completely agree. Very exciting. It's an exciting day for news. Very good. I think also just quickly on your point about Berta as well, getting stuff done early. Like I'm slightly reticent to say this because I hate this thing of like just basically anything bad at Arsenal in the past because he's gone was Edu's fault. And at the time, no one was saying it, but now it's all Edu's fault. I don't want to say that, but maybe if I was going to give a criticism to Edu, it was getting stuff done quickly that there was always going to get done. Even around the Saka contract the first time, it was always going to get done. Yeah. Just it took so long for news to come out, and it can't have. I think I remember that the news coming out, and then it was announced like a couple of days later. That can't have been the first time contracts were done, and contracts were started. And I do think it's important not just to get things done early and get things done proactively, but also to leak stuff and just say, guys, it's okay. Like he's going to sign a new deal. Like we're good. Stop panicking. It gives a sense of it's not just for fans, it's for players as well. You got to remember these Rice and whoever, they all watch Sky Sports. They all it's important. I use the analogy of
Rice chronically online.
Definitely. I watch this. I use this analogy of like a year 6 disco, and it's like, well, if he's going, then I'll go, and if he's going, then I'll go. And to create that sense, I think it's really important. Oogie Boogie, thank you for super chat. Says you bring a player from 15-16 in. Who is it? I like Alexis Sanchez.
Okay, yeah. So for me, right, I was always the Mesut Ozil fanboy. I think Mesut Ozil was significantly the better player, hands down, in my opinion. But in terms of what this team needs right now, Alexis Sanchez would have I'd say, the bigger impact of the players we have, especially the conundrum on left wing. So
Danny Welbeck.
Do you know what Danny Welbeck? Right, he's aged like a fine wine. Danny Welbeck.
I prefer not to speak.
Danny Welbeck, one of the underrated ballers in the league, and someone who got a lot of unfair hate, in my opinion. Just always injured. Always injured.
Getting stuff done early. What have we actually done so far? Well, we're in talks with Šeško. It sounds like we're getting a medical done for Zubimendi. We've got a contract done for Gabriel. Rumors are we're talking to Saka and Saliba that we need to hear that. And look, fair enough if you think we don't need Zubimendi. I think he was second on my priority list for this summer in terms of the problem that Arsenal had with tempo last season, understanding when games needed to push and when games needed to pull back, balls over the top. Also physically, I think Zubimendi's massively underrated. If you were comfortable, Daniel, going into next season in a league that is trending higher with higher intensity sprints, more passes per game, more running, more counter-attacking goals. If you were comfortable going into that season with Mikel Merino, 32-year-old Thomas Partey, and Declan Rice, be my guest, my friend. We need 6'8".
Yeah.
We need 6'8". Let's go with this one from Clive Baby says, Sesko is Arteta's Velociraptor. He can mold him.
What's that?
Velociraptor, I believe, is a dinosaur, no?
Are you just going by the raptor bit? Or...
No, I think a Velociraptor is a dinosaur. Isn't it?
You guessed.
Someone in the chat? Please help.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you ever meet kids, like little boys who don't clip that out of context? Little kids who are obsessed with
clip, chat, clip it.
Have you seen that clip of the guy? It's like, you know you're doing well when you're speaking to year 9 girls. cuts the video.
Clip it, chat, clip it. We've got 1,000 people in here. Someone could clip it.
that thing when like kids are obsessed with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Right, well,
I'm not getting into it. I'm not getting involved.
Oh, we'll have a look. Daniel Hernandez, thank you for your super chat. Really appreciate it. Kind speed. Sane on a free from Bayern.
No.
Really?
Not now. Not the Sane of today. I don't want him. No.
I'll be so real. I haven't watched him this season, so I don't know.
From what I've seen, a significant physical drop-off. Like a significant one. I don't believe that the Sane in his peak, my God, like insane.
This is
insane.
Harsh. This is harsh.
No,
he can't be that bad.
Although I did think Sterling would be better than...
Everyone's saying Sterling PTSD.
No. Don't want something.
Iljin says, apart from the players that are leaving, do we need to make a major player sale given the Premier League Champions League money we receive? This might look. We're talking about all this stuff we want to do. No one knows the financial situation. As I always say, don't buy anyone who tells you this is exactly how much money I also have to spend, because it doesn't work like that. But I look at, okay, we're trying to give Gabriel a new contract. We're trying to give Saliba a new contract. We want to give Ethan and Miles new contracts, which, by the way, both of them could probably get 80k each, probably something like that. So that's not going to be a cheap contract.
Do you reckon? I don't think they'll.
I think so.
No, I don't.
Bro, Ethan and Miles, they're two of the best young players in the country.
I think he'll be around 50.
Okay, but anyway, if I was their agent, I'd be pushing for 150k. Miles is playing every game. Anyway,
actually, do you know what, Mark? Yeah.
Miles played every game available.
Yeah. So to be fair, Miles, I think you got a bit more of a leg to stand on, especially what he's done in the Champions League.
Anyway, we want to give out lots of contracts. We want to sign Rodrigo and Šeško and Watkins and whoever. I do feel there's probably going to be a big sale. And that's why I keep talking about Martinelli. Kivior, though, to be fair, is another option that George actually mentioned.
I think the conversation for me, the reason why. So I was very much in the camp of right. We need to sell Kivior, but now I think when I look at the reason why I'm quite keen on keeping Kivior unless a significant bid comes in is because of the unreliability. Well, the nervousness that I have amongst certain defenders that we have right now in terms of availability. Like as much as I love Calafiori, so far in his first season, we can't trust that. Right? We can't trust it. Tomiyasu, we can't trust it. Ben White and Jurriën Timber, these are players who, have had significant injuries now. Mm-hmm. Someone like Kivior, what he showed, and this is why I think the conversation for me around Kivior has completely altered because of one, the impact that he's given, the fact that he's held his own at left centre back, and he is not the reason why Arsenal are not in the Champions League on Saturday. Kivior's performances earned him the right to compete in the Champions League final on Saturday, right? And the consistency he's given in the Premier League as well. He's changed the conversation because of the fact that he's always available, because of the performance that he's given. And we've seen 2 seasons now of Kivior, right, where when Arsenal needed a little bit of stability, Kivior stepped up. Last season at left back, we needed some stability. Kivior provided that up until the Bayern Munich, the Wolves away games. This season, we needed stability at left centre back. Calafiori's injuries, Gabriel's injury. Kivior stepped in and he'd done his job. For 20 million, for the wages that he's on, and the availability, mate, I'm looking at him as a good asset and someone who I can rely on now, in the event of other players going down. So
yeah, I keep saying this, but Sepp van den Berg went to Brentford for £25 million, having never played Premier League or Champions League for Liverpool. Look, I'm not against selling Kivior, but I don't like this idea we're going to sell him for like 20 million to Napoli. Like, please, guys, it's not easy to find available, decent quality, consistent, reliable, multiple positions. Yeah, he's not the best player in the world. No one's saying he is.
Yeah,
it's not easy to find that with Premier League and Champions League experience and proof, and not just like, oh yeah, in theory, Jarell Heto, or in theory, whoever. These are all theories. We've seen actually in reality him up against Mbappe, and he was fine. Do you know what I mean? That says a lot to me. So
it's effectively changed for me of like, do everything as you can to sell Kivior, to now we don't need to sell Kivior.
No, we don't.
Unless a significant fee comes in, then you talk.
I'd see if we could go on the good feeling this summer and try and get him a new contract. A couple of years extension. Coach Lance says, now we'll find out if we're going to move like a big club. I'm assuming you're American, Coach Lance.
I want every single signing in before that first preseason game. Every single one.
Do you think Coach Lance could be any other nationality other than American?
Could be anything.
Coach Lance.
Yeah. American.
Canadian, maybe?
Could be Polish.
Could be. Should we just go through? Could be
Romanian.
Okay. Could be Angolan. Could be Ghanaian. Could be... wish we'd poke at Barcola. Feel like we need a proper width holder going forward to balance our attacking midfield talent, strike that balance between youth and level raiser. Yeah, I think
perfect.
Actually, to be honest, Barcola, however you say it, I would probably be okay with that. It's not quite Rodrigo, but it's not far off.
He's so good, so good. Like Mikel Arteta, winger to a T.
He's very good. He's very, very good. And I think that we did a scout on him, and his dribbling. Like it's like the technical ceiling of this team, I think, can raise. Like we have a lot of very, very good players, but like just people who can do whatever they want with the football is so important. And Barker is one of those players. He's top. Why does Rohan call him Andrea Sperta? Do you?
Yeah. What is it?
Oh, I've noticed it. Andrea Berta.
Oh, it's a bit. We're being pedantic, though, aren't we?
I mean, I hadn't noticed it, to be fair, but that is not his name. Like his name isn't Andreas.
I'll call him Andreas.
What if I called you Rohan Strivan?
Do you know what? Actually, fair enough, because I hate when people call me Rowan.
Yeah.
I hate Rowan. Like that's just disrespectful. I think there's a clear H there. Say it. And do you know what? I should therefore be pronouncing his name right. So I apologize.
Wow. Rowan and Alec. That's us.
Do you not like Alec?
Oh, I don't care. I feel like I've never really had like a nickname.
Money Penny.
Yeah.
Well, it's your surname, but yeah. But with a capital M and a capital.
What do I call myself? Coach Lance.
Coach Lance.
I call myself Coach Penny.
Coach Penny, yeah.
I like the first name Coach. That's cool.
Coach Money Penny. It's too many syllables.
Maybe you have to say it in like Coach Penny.
I will not be doing that.
Call me Coach, but now you must call me Coach Penny. No, I feel, but Coach Lance, I'm sure. Coach Lance, if you're still in the chat, can you confirm if you're American, please?
Coach Penny.
Chat as well.
Coach Penny. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Andre says it's about attributes, not stats. Exactly, Andre. And what a lovely profile picture you have as well. N. Laval says, how does Sesko fix our box efficiency issues? We played Newcastle. Isak was different. Are we signing a centre forward who ticks lots of boxes but isn't a killer? You can handle that one.
Yeah, no, I think so. So I actually don't believe, right, if you put Sesko in the same sort of situations that we had in the final third in box scenarios against Newcastle, I don't necessarily can guarantee you that we'll win those games. Like that for me is where I stand on it. Like, I don't believe like it's as simple as, if Sesko was playing in those games, Arsenal would have won those games against Newcastle. But I think Sesko would have changed the way that Newcastle would have had to play against us, you know, in terms of how they press, how they defend. And that's where it's a different story. Because Sesko will miss chances and he'll miss really like gilt edge opportunities. But at the same time, Sesko could slap one from like 30 yards out. Top
yeah,
bins.
and we've got to up his XG, but we saw in the stats earlier he does overperform his XG, which is a good sign. Also, this whole big chances missed thing, I just want to show people something. Yes, it's not good to miss big chances. Just going to repeat that again. It's not good to miss big chances. I know this is really good analysis here, but there you go. But if I'm just looking at big chances missed in the Premier League this season, Ollie Watkins is first, Mohamed Salah's second, Erling Haaland's third, Jackson's fourth, Isak's fifth, Mateta's joint fifth. Like, those are some of the best performing players in the Premier League. Like, you are going to miss big chances. Like, it. Yeah. Sorry,
it's one of my big frustrations. For me, I'm always in the camp of players will miss chances. It's down on you as a team to create an environment that allows them to have enough opportunities in front of goal, as opposed to one or two in a game which they've got to take every single time. That is not an efficient way of playing football. An efficient way of playing football is creating high volume chances that allows you centre forward to latch onto through their movement and whatever. So
absolutely. So I think Erling won the golden as if I know him. Mr. Haaland won the Golden Boot last season, I'm pretty sure. Ollie Watkins was third in the entire. Sorry, someone texted me something bizarre. Was third in the entirety of the top 5 leagues for goal contributions last season. He's fourth on big chances missed. So it's just. It's
also.
I'm not saying you shouldn't look at it, but
but it's also, you can also spin it a different way of, okay, these are players who are clearly showing really intelligent movement in terms of getting on the end of these opportunities. So you can spin it that way as well.
George Cole says the best attackers miss the most big chances is elementary.
Yep.
This is true. However, I'm going to do that thing I do where I play devil's advocate. Also, Darwin Núñez is up there as well, so that does tell us something.
There's always a trade-off, though, isn't there? There's always caveats with everything.
We love a caveat on Cannon Podcast. So. We love a caveat. In the last 15 minutes, Rohan, thank you for your super chat, George. Thanks for being in the chat, George. I always see you. Good man. Let's talk about Thierry Henry's comments.
Yeah.
Thierry Henry has questioned Arsenal's progress. Let me just bring up the quotes so we can all read them together. Oh, isn't that going to be nice?
Titi.
We can all read it together from Titi. The last 3 years, we've been in a situation where we should at least bring a cup to the club or be in a final. Man United played 5 finals in the last 5 years. The United that everyone laughs at. In the last 3 years of building, Arsenal didn't reach a final. This year, we didn't compete with Liverpool. I don't know what people think, but we didn't compete not once. I'm not saying this season was a disappointment, but it's normal that people are raising questions now about what the team is doing. I haven't listened to the podcast. I have no issue with what he said. Is that unfair?
No, I genuinely have no issue with it. I think he's being very honest. I think with previous comments from Titi, it has created some. I thought you were going to say something there.
No, I don't know what you refer to.
No, no, but I think there's some comments around like jealousy of Mikel and stuff like that. But when we isolate these comments, I believe he's been very honest and he's very fair to ask why we have not at least got to a final of not one of the cup competitions since 2020. Isn't that fair? And then the immediate response from and I'd say we fall more towards Arteta apologists, but we are very much critical of Mikel as well. But I think Arteta apologists will react to saying, "Well, look at Man United. You know, they've won cups, but their league position has showed that it's not sustainable." But it doesn't need to be like significantly polarizing. Arsenal could still have done better in the cup competitions whilst doing what they have been doing in the league. That can happen together, and it should have happened together. And there is very fair questions to be asked of our performances in domestic cups. The record, that the proof is there in the pudding. I don't know how you can disagree with that. Like, look at the teams that we have lost to in some of these competitions as well over the years, like Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Brighton, West Ham. You know, like, it's a fair question to ask. Very fair question to ask. I don't think it's jealousy. I think he's being honest. You know, so. Yeah.
I don't have an issue with those comments particularly. I think even Mikel himself would be like, we've underperformed in the cut. I think I'm a problem. Supposedly there are some other comments though, so let me.
I think there's one about Sterling.
Let me just bring those up. I'm always cautious of these things because I haven't listened to the podcast. I don't know, and there's always context to these things, and also. The point of these shows is to get us talking. So they're only going to clip up the bit that people are going to talk about. Like that's the whole point of it. So I would love to see the context, but here we go. Thierry Henry, Mikel Arteta. He got Raheem Sterling when everyone wanted a 9. He had time to get a 9. He had time. I'm not the coach. I don't know the discussion. Everyone has been screaming for a 9, apart from when we win, by the way, because when we beat Real Madrid, we don't need a 9. You do need a 9. I don't understand the change. People change the way they talk. We need a 9 when we're not scoring, and then suddenly we go on a run, and nobody mentions that we need a 9. 9 doesn't sound like a word anymore, but you need a 9 for me and a 9. We're talking about a 9. 9. Okay, so I don't. What's the issue with that?
I think. So, I think what it is a case of like the argument there. I think the biggest argument with this as to why people are for Thierry Henry's comments here is because of the fact that of the Kai Havertz signing. In that moment, I believe what fans would argue is he had an opportunity to sign a striker in that period where we signed Kai Havertz, right? You know, he's not strictly just talking about. If you listen to the entire podcast, he's not just talking about like last summer, he had an opportunity to sign a number 9. No, last summer, I think there were significant restrictions there personally. And you saw it in January as well. But the previous summer, I think the argument there is like, well, you could have signed number 9 there instead of Kai Havertz. But for me, I don't agree to that because I believe Kai Havertz is not the reason why Arsenal did not win the league last season. In fact, Kai Havertz was our best performer in the run-in that nearly got us over the line. And we, as you alluded to, a Trossard kick away or a Heung-min Son kick away, you know. So it depends on which way. I think this depends on which way you look at the Kai Havertz signing. If we're being like really objective, where like it was at the moment where Mikel could have got a number 9. So
Alex, the issue is on re-arguing that Arteta never looked at a striker when he wanted Vlahovic in 22-23 and wanted Šeško 23-24. Has someone got the actual clip of him saying this? Because I'd love to see the context. Just from reading this, it sounds like. Yeah, he's probably wrong to put it on Arteta, but equally, I do think we should have at some point signed a 9. Is that not?
Yeah, but I think the only opportunity...
So people are saying that they're putting it on. He's putting it on him, and if he is just putting it on Arteta, that's wrong.
That's wrong. But I think the argument there is like he could have signed a number 9 and out and at number 9 in the moment where we got Kai Havertz. That is the big point. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where the big argument of this is. I don't agree to that. This is why I don't necessarily agree with what he said here, because I don't view the moment in which we signed Kai Havertz instead of like a number 9 as the point in which that led up to Arsenal not winning the Premier League. You know, like that wasn't the reason why Arsenal didn't win the league of getting a number 9. Kai Havertz showed that we were that close to getting the league title, and it wasn't down to Kai Havertz's signing that stopped Arsenal from achieving that goal last season. So. I think it depends on how you view the Kai Havertz signing here.
Yeah, I'll be so real. I think we're just being oversensitive with Henry. Maybe he shouldn't put it on Mikel, but it's such a small thing. People want to defend the club, and they'll look for something. I will say though, like if you actually listen to it, he doesn't just look at like last. He doesn't just look at the summer that's gone. He's looked at previous summers as well as to you could have got a number 9 then. And I think the only real time we could have got a number 9, an out number 9 was really like when we signed Kai Havertz instead of a Kai Havertz signing. So. Yeah. So what was that summer 23? So Lacazette, no, not Lacazette moved on. We had Jesus.
But we signed Jesus.
We just had Jesus off that. The problem is like we should have not been in this position as a forward. So however you get there, it's up to you. You think it's the Kroenkes, you think it's Arteta, I don't really mind. But my point is more this. I think sometimes we retrospectively analyze with the information that we have now it's like, for example, with the information I have now, would I have made the same choice about going to university where I did? Probably not. But I didn't have that information then. So I can't blame myself I can't be like, well, that wasn't the right. Well, it got you here. And I think sometimes we use the information we have currently to analyze information. Like at the end of 2022 or 23, 24, I would have signed a forward. I wanted us to sign a forward, but I always go back to it. I'm sorry, get off Twitter. Most Arsenal fans, if you'd said, look, we all want a forward. Of course we do. Could we get through the season with a fit Jesus, with Saka, and with Kai Havertz, who's just had that unbelievable run at the end of the season? I'm not saying every fan would have been jumping for joy, but we can't pretend there was this universal 100% total agreement, no forward or nothing, as we have this summer. That's what we have now, but we didn't have that last summer. And I won't be gaslit about that. I remember being there. Yeah. So it's easy to analyze stuff now and look back and go, we should have done it. But it's the same way. And I do feel with this, and this is a slightly different topic. It's very easy to say a team or a club or a player won't do something or should have done something. But actually to stick your neck out sometimes and say someone made the right decision. But very rarely we see that. We see a lot of commentary and punditry saying they got this wrong and they got that wrong and they got this wrong and they got that wrong. Where's the praise? Where's the praise for things like, I look at our departures. I went through our departures recently. I don't think we got one name wrong. Maybe we got a price wrong. Maybe we got a time wrong. But if we let a player go, who's wrong at any point? Who we've gone, we should have kept him. Maybe Xhaka. Maybe. And I think it's just very easy to criticize and go, we should have done this, should have done this. What about the things we did do and praising the things that we did do?
Yeah,
we got a lot right.
And also, this is why I really push back on the idea that Arteta has built this squad poorly. Because when you go through, because I think what it is like right now, when you go through the list of things that we need to do this summer, there's quite a lot of things we do need to do. And then that points towards, okay, he's not built the squad properly there. No, but if you go over the years and you look at every single individual signing, I can guarantee you that pretty much all of them, barring a few, have been certified hits. They've been certified hits. Certain players like Gabriel Jesus was a guaranteed bang before injuries prevailed. Someone like Zinchenko, for me, was a bang in terms of what he was tasked to do in that moment, coming to the squad. Now we've evolved past him, So that's just part and parcel of how squads are built and how squads go over the years, And I'm just going back to the Henry point and general discussion of legends. Like, I don't know where you sit on this, but legends are fully entitled to their views on the football club that they were previously playing at, in which they gained legendary status. But at the same time, they're not infallible. Their opinions can be criticized. That's part and parcel of the game. It doesn't matter what your legendary status were. Your opinions are fans are very entitled to criticize your opinions as well. In the same way, you are fully entitled to the views that you hold. And that's where I stand on it. It's kind of like it's this thing where because of Thierry's legendary status, you can't object to his opinion, which I completely disagree with. Just because he was a fantastic legendary player doesn't mean that he's going to be right every single time on the club on the opinions that he holds.
And the same way we're not right.
Exactly.
It's just an opinion.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an opinion. Yeah. So it's not that deep at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just not that deep.
Yeah.
I think people, and I get this as well sometimes. I think people just want to defend the club. They just want to find something to go, you're attacking. It's such an online thing. Like, honestly, I sometimes think about the way people act online. And I'm like, if you had to explain what you're angry about to someone who didn't say, I don't know, my sister's husband does not care about football at all. And he's a guy about my age. He just doesn't care. He's an F1 guy, right? if I had to sit there and explain to him, yeah, mate, I'm really annoyed because basically, so we had this player called Thierry Henry, right? And he would, you don't actually care.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't actually get. You're just looking for something to be angry about, and that's all it is.
I actually think that's so true. I'm not going to name you. There's some certain accounts I see, right? Certain accounts. I'll tell you some of them like offline, right? And they're just there reacting for the sake of reacting.
You're just
like,
reacting.
yeah.
You're just looking. You've got a pair of glasses on. You're going. I'm angry, probably about my life, and I'm going to be. No, but it's right, isn't it? I'm angry about my life.
Yeah.
And then anything that comes up, it's like people who have like victim mentality, isn't it? Every situation is viewed. Doesn't matter how we all know these people. Doesn't matter what happens, they're the victim somehow. And it's just a pair of glasses you've got on. You've just got a pair of glasses. It's bizarre. Ivan Smith, sorry, I missed this super chat. We made £270 million in the Premier League Champions League this season after a year with very low net spend. We may not need a big sell unless we make a Musiala type signing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see in terms of the money wise, but my suspicion is we'll need a big signing, even just numbers wise. But equally, we went into the last summer short, which is a big thing. Because something I actually am angry about, which my sister's husband also wouldn't care about, the fact that we went into last season with 22 slots filled out of 25. 3 players. Get you out! Get you out! Get them all out.
No, it's not out. It's like get him out.
Get him out. Get them all out. Right. Let's do 5 questions. 5 questions to finish the show. Quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Because Rohan probably wants to go to bed, doesn't he?
Do you want to go to bed? Actually, I'm tired today.
Would you guys date a Spurs fan? First question.
No.
I think considering what I do, it'd be quite tough.
No, I actually think these things matter. I do think these.
It'd be quite tough. Like jokes aside, it'd be quite tough.
It depends on how much you like football. I love football, love it. I love Arsenal, so that is a bit of a spanner in the works, isn't it? Is it not? Like, yeah, I can't. You couldn't, Alex.
22 slots on the back of an ACL and they're running throughout all 20.
Who's coined this, right? Who's coined this? I think I've coined this.
What, off the back of an ACL?
Yeah. I think so.
That is. I'll give you that.
Yes.
Who is your favourite pundit? Rohan Jivan.
Oh, that's a good question.
Mine's Rohan Jivan.
Yours is Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville.
Oh yeah. Sorry, my paymasters. Yes. Yeah, so what happens is, do you know what's so funny, right? So
you're going to mention that tweet, aren't you?
Yeah, if you missed this, I think the Nottingham Forest guy banning any broadcaster. It happens to be my paymasters at Sky. Any broadcaster from anywhere is just a ridiculous thing to do. He's just not agree with something you did, and you're banning him from your stadium. Like, grow up. Anyway, obviously I put it out. There's people in the comments literally like, bro, I used to really enjoy your content, but you've sold out, man. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, seriously, grow up, get a life, touch some grass.
Touch some grass.
No, but touch
I
some grass.
I love that response. You know, like someone just says touch grass. Okay,
my parasocial relationship with my favourite Arsenal content creator isn't going very well today because he said something I don't like. Ali McCoist is up there. I hate the way he says Havertz. Havertz.
Havertz. He's got to score.
He's got to score. I think I'd say. Who do I like? I like mainstream pundit. I still think. Honestly, I think Carragher's quite good.
I don't think he is. I think he's an idiot. That guy.
Okay.
Sorry, I think he's an idiot.
There's no one I think is like. Well, I've got a few people that get terrible. The problem is they're all trying to talk. This is why like this sort of content works, is because they're trying to talk about something incredibly specific with very general knowledge.
I'll be honest though, right? I don't know about you. I very rarely listen to like punditry.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, you know, like before an Arsenal game.
Sorry, Ian Wright's good.
Yeah, but like before an Arsenal game, I don't sit there and watch like if it's on, Sky Sports Super Sunday, I don't sit like 30 minutes before and listen to what they're
No
saying.
one does.
I'll literally just be there. Like I'll do 5 minutes before kickoff. Right, turn it on now. Here we go. And then halftime, I'll probably do something else. And then once the game's finished, I don't care apart from the post-match interviews.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. Ian Wright's probably one, but also Ian Wright watches every Arsenal game, and I like him. So he has good knowledge, understands football, actually watches the games, and he seems like a nice guy. Probably Ian Wright, yeah. But again, if you were asking me to talk about Man United, I'm sorry if someone said to me, "Can you come and be a pundit for a Man United game?" I'd say no because I'm not as clued in as I should be about United. So not gonna happen. Let's do another question. Alex, why did you delete the Sterling tweet last week? We need to know. I know, I'm a pussy.
Do you want to tell them why?
Absolutely not. Let's do... He says he watches TCP instead of pundits. Let's do 2 more questions.
Yeah, 2 more.
2 more questions. Thoughts on Šeško v Gyökeres celebrations?
Right. That's a good question, right? So
this versus the jump.
Yeah, but the jump is insane, though, isn't it? Not gonna lie.
That's cold. That
is
cold.
But imagine, right? You're sitting north. Sesko scores a banger, North Bank. You're in the corner, and he runs over to you, and that leap. That leap.
I think in the stadium on the lower tier, Šeško's better.
Yeah.
Probably for the aura.
No, but then you can't really see the Gyökeres one, though, can you? Like if you're up a tier properly.
No, that's what I'm saying. So the Šeško one, lower tier, down like you're in front of it, you watch him leap in the air, great stuff. But Gyökeres, that's going on the big screen, mate.
Oh, you're thinking big screen? Yeah. To be fair, not gonna lie, actually, probably Gyökeres, because imagine like the entire stadium just doing that after he scored. Like that would be cold. No.
It would be cold for us. I'm sorry if United did that. If like United signed him and everyone goes,
"Oh, who cares?" Thank you for your message.
Thank you. Tell you what we need to finish with.
Thumbnail
check. We have not done thumbnail check. And I will say this one goes in at an immediate 10 out of 10. You know why?
Why?
I'll tell you why when I find it. Where is it? Sent it to me earlier.
The cap is today because I came back from the gym. There you go. That's why I'm wearing the cap. It was very windy, so hair was all over the place.
Have I deleted it? I haven't deleted it. Where is it?
Shocking.
No. This isn't right. Folder. Here we go. Got it. I'm going to say it's an immediate 10 out of 10 because one, Forder is actually on holiday and he did this even though he's on holiday. That is commitment.
Yeah, it's commitment.
And he put Šeško in the thumbnail.
That's very good.
So we knew. So immediately 10 out of 10. And the hidden Rohan is good. I like it. Immediate 10 out of 10. You can't say it's not 10 out of 10. He's on holiday with his family and he still did a thumbnail.
You can always extract more.
Oh my God.
You can always extract more.
This guy, man, he hates fun. He hates family. He hates holiday. He hates everyone.
9.5 out of 10.
This is incredible. I'm sorry, Alex. I would be nicer than Rohan, but there you go. Rohan, that's finish.
Yeah.
Another one in the books. A very intense sort of.
Yeah, that was too intense.
TCP live, I would say this evening. Normally have a bit more fun on these. We do this. Hey! Ho-ho! That's fun. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
This is the point. He neglected his children for TCP Live. It's not good enough for you.
No, but imagine he had imagine he could have had an extra minute to do a little bit more.
Thank you guys so much for Thank you guys so much for joining us on TCP Live. We will have some Šeško content out. There is an Ollie Watkins scouted dropping tomorrow, which is still worth watching. Thank you so much. Because it would be in addition to a Šeško, because we're going to sign more forwards this summer, and we should know about every single player, shouldn't we, guys? Come on, everybody. Hope you all have a lovely week. We'll have a main pod for you next week. We'll probably have some streams and stuff. Loads of stuff coming up on the Cannon podcast. If you were pitching why someone should become a Patreon or YouTube member, Rohan, what would you say?
Plethora of content. Plethora of content. You've got ad-free main pods. You've got youth pods. You've got scouted. You've got impromptu live streams, which is a new feature. Oh, God. You're right there. And just loads more content. And you get to see our faces. Like,
someone commented on something yesterday and said, this is the first time I've seen TCP on YouTube. You guys are handsome, and then put a laughing emoji. And I still can't tell if it was sarcastic or not.
Wait. Yeah, the laughing emoji puts it off.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I couldn't. Like,
was there any need for that bit? Like, was there?
It was like
need?
a face. It was like a faceless account, and I was like, "Is this me?"
Yeah.
Andrew just lost his job, so he can't be a member. Andrew, you can get a free trial on Patreon. We got you. Hope you get a new job soon. Hope everything gets sorted, mate. I'm sorry to hear about that. Right, no one clip that comment about the little boys. And we'll move on.
Do it, chat.
Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Rohan.
Nice one.
Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.